Today we're going to do 10.6, and it's going to cover AC factoring. Now, you know yesterday we factored trinomials, and what was the leading coefficient of our trinomials that we factored yesterday? Who remembers? Huh? What was the coefficient of x squared in all of our problems yesterday? Was there any number in front of x squared yesterday? No. So it was an understood what? 1. So when we're factoring a trinomial that has a 1 in front of it, factoring is much quicker and much easier. Today, though, we are going to factor trinomials that are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c again. Okay, same form as yesterday. However, the a is going to be a number other than 1. So that's going to complicate things just a little bit. The main bulk of what we did yesterday, we're still going to do today. But we've got a few extra things that we're going to have to do because the coefficient in front of x squared is going to be something other than 1. All right? But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and review what we did yesterday. All right? I taught you yesterday that you look at the second sign in your trinomial, and the second sign will tell you everything you need to know about the signs in your binomial. So the second sign in our problem is a positive. So will my signs be the same or will they be different? They will be the same. And how do I tell if they're both going to be negative or if they're both going to be positive? Ian? The first sign tells me that information. So we draw our x and we can tell from our trinomial that our signs will be the same and they will both be negative. All right? The next thing we did was we filled in the spots above, at the top of the x, and at the bottom of the x. Above the x, what did we put? Okay, the coefficient of x, which in this case is -9, goes at the top. And what number goes at the bottom? The constant, which is 20. All right, we then have to find factors of which of those two numbers? The 20. So we list all the factors of 20. 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. Now, of those factors, we are either going to add the two factors to get 9 or we're going to subtract them. And that, again, depends on the signs. Since our signs are going to be the same, are we going to be adding the two factors to get 9 or are we going to be subtracting them? Good. The signs are the same, so we're going to be adding the two numbers together. So which two factors can be added together to give us 9? 4 and 5. And since our signs are the same, it doesn't matter where we fill in the 4 and the 5. Now, once the x is completely filled in, then we can put our factored answer. So remember, the x squared we've done nothing with up to this point, so we're going to split it. One of them is going in the first set of parentheses, one of them is going in the second set. And then, of course, we're bringing down the -4 and the -5. So this is what we learned yesterday. Everybody feel good about that? All right, we're going to skip the second problem and let's go into our new information. Now, this is AC factoring, all right? So this is when the leading coefficient is a number other than 1. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for a GCF. Who remembers what GCF stands for? Greatest common factor. So we look for the biggest number that will go into all three of our terms and we'll pull it out first. Once we've done that, then we're going to slide and multiply. You say, what does that mean? It means we're going to take the A at the beginning of the problem and we're going to slide over and multiply it by the constant or the C. All right? We're then going to draw our X. We're going to figure out our signs like we always do. Are they both positive? Are they both negative? Is one plus? Is one minus? Okay, we'll draw our X just like we did yesterday, figure out our signs, and fill in the coefficient. Now look, it's the new constant. So you say, well, what is the new constant? It's that number that we got when we multiplied A and C. Once we filled in all that information, then we factor as normal, just like we did yesterday. Then we've got 2 extra steps. Again, because the leading coefficient is going to be something other than 1, we're going to have to slide and divide. We're going to have to take that A value at the top and we're sliding it down and dividing it by both of the factors in parentheses. All right? Sometimes that's going to divide evenly. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That would be an example of it dividing evenly. But sometimes we're going to be left with a fraction like 3/4. Does 3/4 reduce? No. So at that point, we have to do bottoms up. We have to take the number at the bottom, the 4, and move it up next to the x. All right? Now, I love the looks on some of your faces. So let's do an example, and I'll show you what I mean. Look at letter A. Do we have a GCF?
Yes, 2.
All right. Peyton says, yes, we have a 2. Is that the biggest number that goes into 6, 2, and 8?
Yes.
Absolutely. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to write down that GCF, and we're going to put a set of parentheses because we have to pull the 2 out. So the quickest way to do this is to take each term and divide it by that 2. So read what's 6x squared divided by 2.
3x.
3x squared. Awesome. Read, keep going. What's negative 2x divided by 2? Negative 1x. And what's negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4. Awesome. Close the parentheses. Now, the trinomial inside the parentheses is the one we're going to factor. And don't worry about the GCF for now. I'll tell you what to do with it at the end. But for now, our focus is going to be on that new trinomial, that 3x squared minus 1x minus 4. Now, we're supposed to slide and multiply. So, Michelle, we're sliding and we're multiplying what? What 2 numbers are we going to be multiplying in this problem? 3 and negative 4. So, over to the side, we're going to write AC, because that's A times C. And what does that give us, Michelle? Negative 12. All right? Now, we're going to do exactly what we did yesterday. We're going to draw our X. My question, Ian, will my signs be the same or will they be different? All right, look at the second sign in your trinomial. It's a negative, so my signs will be different. One will be plus and one will be minus. Now remember, that's just a matter of memorizing. All right, if the second sign in your trinomial is negative, your signs are going to be different. All right, Gavin Downing, what number is going at the top of our X?
Negative 1.
Good, the coefficient of X is negative 1. And what is the constant?
Negative 4.
Look at your notes. Remember, we're inserting the new constant today.
Oh, okay,
So
12,
the
4.
new constant today is negative 12. All right? So negative 12 is going in there. Now, Mason, we're trying to find factors of which of our numbers?
12.
All right, so 1 times 12.
12. 2 times 6 and 3 times 4.
Good. Now, Mason, are we going to be multiplying our factors or are we going to be adding them or subtracting them to get 1?
Subtract.
Good. So which set of factors will we subtract and get 1?
3 minus 4.
3 and 4. So we plug those in. Which one will be positive and which one will be negative?
3 will be positive, 4 will be negative.
Very good. Now remember, if you plug the numbers in and you look at them and figure out you're wrong, then just switch them. But since our coefficient is a negative 1, our larger factor has to go beside the negative sign. Now, Mason, go ahead and finish this part of it. When I factor, what do I get?
You do x plus 3.
Okay.
X minus 4.
Good. Now, yesterday, this is where we would have stopped. However, since the leading coefficient is something other than 1, we've got to add 2 more steps. We've got to slide that a value down and divide both factors by that number. So what is my a, Alana? What is my a value for this problem? 3. So I'm going to divide both factors by 3. Now, Alana, I'm going to let you keep going. What happens to 3 divided by 3? Good. So I get x plus 1 in my first set of parentheses because 3 divided by 3 is a whole number. But Alana, what happens when I do 4 divided by 3? Does that divide evenly? No. So this is where I have to do bottoms up. I have to take the bottom number and I have to move it up next to the x. So what is my second set of parentheses going to be? 3x minus 4. Now, last thing, if you had a GCF, you got to bring it down and put it in front of your 2 binomials. But that is your factored form. Okay? So listen, a lot of it is what we did yesterday. It's exactly what we did yesterday. We just got to remember the new stuff. And the new stuff only comes into play when there's a number in front of x squared that is not a 1. All right, so let's keep practicing. Let's keep going. Do we have a GCF on letter B? No. All right. So we're going to slide and multiply. Read, what are we sliding and multiplying? No. Tell me the two numbers. I'm going to multiply.
3 and 4.
Nope.
3 and -7.
Good. It's A and C, always. All right, that's why we're sliding. We're starting at A and we're sliding over to the C. And so when we multiply A and C, read, what do we get? Negative 21. Awesome. Now we will start our factoring. So we've got our X. Tatiana, signs, the same or different? Good. Again, that second sign is negative, which tells me my signs will be different. Isaiah, what number's going at the top of the X? 4. Good. The coefficient of X. And what's going at the bottom, Isaiah? Good. That new constant, that negative 21. All right. Ja'Cory, you have a question or you want to do the next part?
Oh, I don't. Well, I had a question.
Okay.
Why didn't we make the trinomial like on the side? Why we didn't do that?
Say that again.
Why we didn't like make the trinomial?
Well, because the original trinomial didn't have a GCF this time. So we just started working off the one they gave us. The only reason we did anything on the A is because it had a GCF. They won't always have a GCF to pull out. Okay? All right, so Ja'Cory, I want you to help me. I need factors of 21. So those are 1 times 21. Does 2 times anything give me 21? Does 3 times anything? Ja'Cory? 3 times 7. All right, now, Ja'Cory, the next question is, which set of factors am I going to use to get 4? So I'm either adding 2 numbers together to get 4 or I'm subtracting. That is going to depend on my signs, and my signs are different. So will I be adding my 2 numbers or will I be subtracting them?
Subtract.
Good, my signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. So what 2 factors can I subtract and get 4?
3 and 7.
Good. I subtract 3 and 7 and I get 4. Now I just have to decide which one of them is positive and which one of them is negative. Now my 4 is positive, so the larger factor needs to go next to the positive sign. So which one would be positive
7.
and which one would be negative?
3.
Obviously. Good. So now what are my 2 binomials? Javion?
X.
X
Oh.
plus 7. X minus 3. Now, Javion, what do I do next? What am I going to divide those factors by? 3. The A value in this problem is 3, so I'm going to divide both of them by 3. All right, Javion, what happens in the first set of parentheses? Does that divide evenly? Good. I got a bottoms up. I got to move the bottom up by the X. So what's my parentheses going to be? 3x plus 7. And what happens in that second set? Good. It becomes a negative 1, and so I am done. Questions? Yes, Mason.
So what determines the one's going to be the denominator for the last part?
The A. Slide and divide. We're going to slide the A value down and divide it by our 2 factors. All right, any other questions? All right, take a minute and work letter C. You can work alone or with the person beside you or behind you. All right, Mason,
Yes.
Do we have a GCF to pull out? No. So we are going to do what first?
We A and C.
Okay.
The new, whatever it's called, new constant.
Okay,
And I got that as 6.
good. If we slide and multiply, we're going to multiply 2 and 3, and we're going to get 6. All right, our X, what are our signs going to be, Mason?
Our signs are going to be the same.
Good. My second sign is addition, so I know my signs are the same. The first sign is a plus sign, so I know they're both going to be positive. All right, Javion, what's going in the top of my X?
7.
Good, that coefficient of X, which is a 7, and what's going out the bottom? That new constant, which is 6. All right, very good. We're looking for factors of what, Bruce? So 1 times 6, and are we going to be adding our factors or subtracting them? So which 2 can be added? 1 and 6, we add and get 7. All right, so since our signs are the same, it doesn't matter which one goes where. So Bruce, what are my factors or my binomials right now? All right, x plus 1, x plus 6. Now, Peyton, we're supposed to slide and divide. We're supposed to slide our a value down and divide it by both of our factors. So what is the a value for this trinomial?
2.
So we're going to divide both factors by 2. Now, in the first set of parentheses, Peyton, is 1/2 in its simplest form.
2x plus 2.
Good. 1/2 as a fraction, and I want you to understand this. So far, all of our fractions have been in simplest form, but you cannot do bottoms up until your fraction is in its simplest form. So if you had 6/4, you wouldn't slide a 4 up. You'd have to reduce 6/4 first, then do your bottoms up. But 1/2 is in its simplest form, so we're going to slide it up. And what did you say you'd get? 2x plus 1. And what happens in the second set of parentheses?
2 will just divide and they get x plus 3.
There you go. So this is your final answer. How many of you got 2x plus 1 times x plus 3? Awesome. Any questions? All right, let's look at D. Do we have a GCF?
Yes.
Okay. What is our GCF?
0.
That's not a GCF. Gavin?
We would have to multiply 5 times, or 8.
So we don't have a GCF. No GCF. All right, so what would we do?
Multiply 5 times 2.
Good. A times C is going to give us what? 10. All right.
I've got a question about the last, or letter C.
All right, let's finish this one and then I'll go back and answer questions. All right, Gavin, will our signs be the same or different?
They will be the same.
They're going to be the same because the second sign is positive and they're both going to be what?
Negative.
They're both going to be negative because the first sign is negative. All right, Isaiah, what's going at the top? The coefficient of x, which is -7, and at the bottom? 10. Good. Kayla, we need factors of what number?
10.
So 1 times 10. All right. Are we going to be adding these factors or subtracting them? Good. My signs are the same. So which 2 can I add to get 7? 5 and 2. And since the signs are the same, it does not matter which one goes where. All right. Michelle, what's my factored form? Hold on. Say that one more time. Okay, yeah. Give me the factored form at this spot. All right. So x minus 2 times x minus 5. And what is our next step? Slide and divide. So we're going to divide the factors by what? By the 5, because our a value is 5. So what happens in the first set of parentheses? Gavin, Cameron. Does that divide evenly? So we're going to do, okay, bottoms up. We bring the bottom up next to the x. And what does that give us? 5x minus 2. And x minus 1. Awesome. How many of you beat me to the end and got that answer? Good. All right, Gavin, you had a question on C?
Yes, sir. Like on letter A, we had to have 2 times x plus 1 times 3x minus 4. Why wouldn't you have your AC in front of these?
I don't understand the question.
On letter A, we had to have the 2.
Because that was the GCF.
Oh,
So
okay,
far,
so
A is the
it's
only
GCF.
one, right. So
Okay.
far, A is the only one that's had a GCF for us to pull out. So
Okay.
that's why A had a number in front and the rest of them have not.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's a good question. Anybody else? All right, now let's look at this last type of question. Solve the equation by factoring. All right, you learned yesterday, nothing's going to change as far as the factoring goes. There's just going to be a little extra work at the end because we're going to have to solve the equation. But before we can even work this problem, what are we going to have to do first? Can we start factoring with it looking like this? No. So what do we have to do, Alana?
Okay, so you're gonna have to want to say move the 30.
Yes, we are going to move the 30. How are we going to move it? Good. We're going to subtract it. Now, does negative 30 have any like terms on the left side of this problem? No. So we're just bringing down 4w squared minus 14w minus 30, and it equals 0. Now, once it is set equal to 0, now we can begin our factoring process. What are we supposed to check for first? GCF. Caleb, do we have a GCF this time? You sure? All right. Does anyone disagree with him? Peyton, what do you think?
It's at least 2.
At least 2. Because every single one of those numbers is even. So at least 2. And I think 2 is as high as we go, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to pull out a 2. And remember, we're dividing each term by the 2. So, Caleb, I'll let you do this. 4w squared divided by 2 is what? Caleb? 2 what? 2w squared. All right. What's negative 14w divided by 2? Negative 7w. And negative 30 divided by 2? Negative 15. And we still set it equal to 0. Now, the inside trinomial is what we're going to factor. So this is where we're going to start our slide and multiply. Read, what are we sliding and what are we multiplying?
2 and negative 15.
Which is going to give us?
Negative 30.
Negative 30. All right, awesome. So we've got our x. Bruce, will our signs be the same or will they be different? Different. The second sign is negative, so we know our signs will be different. All right, what number is going at the top, Javion? Negative 7. And what number will go at the bottom? All right, we're looking for factors of what, Jordan? Factors of 30. So 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. Now, Jordan, are we going to be adding these factors or subtracting them? Subtracting. The signs are different. And when we subtract them, we're trying to get what number? 7. So which of those factors can be subtracted to get 7? Good. 3 and 10. So which one's going to be plus and which one's going to be minus? Okay. Very good. I need a negative 7. So the larger factor needs to go next to the negative sign. So Jordan, I'll let you finish this part of it. When we factor, what do we get? Look, remember, we're just bringing those things on the side of our x. We bring them down. So x plus 3 and x minus 10. Awesome. All right, Kayla, we got to slide and divide. All right, so what are we sliding and dividing? Good. We're looking at the trinomial inside the parentheses, and the a value is 2. So we're going to divide both of our factors by 2. So, Kayla, keep going. What happens in the first set of parentheses? Okay. Well, bottoms up. We're going to have the bottoms up, right? Okay, so what do we get in the first set? 2x plus 3. And then in the second set? Very good. Now, don't forget, this one had a GCF. So we got to bring it down. All right? But this is all set equal to what? 0. So you guys can keep working down on your papers. I'm going to come back up here. What are we supposed to do with each set of parentheses to finish this problem? Set them equal to 0. So let's do that. 2 equals 0. 2x plus 3 equals 0. And x minus 5 equals 0. All right? Does 2 equals 0 make any sense? No, it's not a true statement, so we cross it out. It's not part of our answer. Reed, how do we solve the second equation there?
You subtract 3.
Okay, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And that is going to give me 2x equals what?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Am I done? What do I do next?
You divide both sides by 2.
Divide both sides by 2. And so what does x equal?
Negative
X equals -3/2. Awesome. All right, Peyton, what happens on x minus 5 equals 0?
X minus 5 equals 0. That's one of the ones you did yesterday, so, plus 5.
We're going to add 5 to both sides.
We can't see that.
That's all right. Keep going. We're going to add 5 to both sides, so x equals, what's 0 plus 5? 5. So our two answers are x equals -3/2 and x equals 5. Are there any questions? All right, that is lesson 10.6.